Hey, these are the types of things that happen. You're I don't so this is that one of those you when you hit the ground running, this is kind of the situation that you get into. So you gotta fix your mic.
Can you hear me?
Oh, now I can. Yeah. Did
Dude,
you do something?
I had the whole thing up, and I was so like, Lord, what was happening? But okay, I'm good. How are you?
I am very good.
Yeah.
So the cool thing for those who jump in on this, and of course the recording, this is our first episode, so I I I enjoy building as we go because you got to get down to doing it. Nothing happens if you don't just jump out there and do it. So I appreciate you being willing to get into this idea
It's a
and
bit
just jump in
nerve.
and do it.
Yeah, it's nerve wracking, but I think you're right. We have to start somewhere, and so I'm all for that. I'm all for hitting the ground running. So yeah.
Good, good. So this is going to be a lot on you, but the cool thing about this is your expertise. This is what you're really engaged in terms of the research, and so I really want to understand what really got you into this research in particular and how this has come to be. So we'll talk about that in just a moment after I give this rundown of what this podcast is meant to be. And I really want to not so much get into the stories that are part of this, which we'll get to over the course of what we're doing. But I want to get toward the research interest because you put a lot of time and we've got a you've got a book coming out. Is that or is that still? Oh, so tell me
No,
about that.
that is still really very much into the making. So we're doing some reviews, we're adding illustration and so forth. So yes, it is. By this summer, it should be
Yeah, because the
completed.
children's book,
Yeah.
right?
Well, it's a children's book, but it's kind of tricky in the sense that the material is heavy. So it's a book for educators, parents to read
Okay.
it to the children or to their children. It should be read in classrooms. It should be conversation having. Children should be able to ask questions about things. And it's sort of making the conversation more, I guess, you know, normalized, right? So it's
Right,
something that we
right.
don't talk about a lot. And but
We're
the graphic in the book is quite interesting. It's nestled in a Caribbean setting with all sort of pictures and beaches and favorite things. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, so I want to hear about that as well. So we'll get into that. Let me get this field together and actually let me see if I can have our AI for this show read it because that is
You all fancy. Well, go on with your AI fancy stuff.
yeah, that's the signature for
Yeah.
me is to have AI mascot. And this AI mascot, we get to give her a name. So
What are
I
you
don't know what
naming
you
her?
would like for the name, but we get to give her a name.
I am so trying. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to share stuff live. Oh, I feel there's an echo. There's an echo.
Yeah, now because I turned up my
Oh, okay. All
yeah.
right. So I was trying to share what we're doing with my audience, but I'm still learning how to do that. But yeah. So while we try to do all of this, you could ask questions. We can have a conversation so that we could you know, try to tell the people what we're about.
Well, I'm about to tell what this is about with what's a great Caribbean name?
For
Do you
what? For this talk tonight?
know? Well, no, for
AI?
what's a common name in the Caribbean, Virgin Islands?
A name or idiom or a slang? I don't know.
A name like Stacy or I don't know
Oh,
what it is.
I don't know. Caribbean name. We're very much of the Roman Catholic Church Christian. So everybody's a Jenny, a Marianne, a Gail-Ann. Um,
Oh,
the new
Mary Ann.
generations have new names. They have fancy names, but as far as me, I'm going back. It's a Gail-Ann, it's a Nicole, it's a I don't know, it's a Keisha, it's a Jessica. I don't know. I'm naming all my siblings, right?
Right there. No, let's go. Let's go with Nicole. I like that.
You like
We'll call
Nicole?
her
And Nicole is
Nicole.
quite powerful. It means victory of the people. So yeah, we could do that. Let's do
I
Nicole.
like that.
I like that
So
too.
Nicole is going to introduce this whole enterprise. Take it away.
The R.A.P.E podcast is designed to break the silence surrounding intimate partner and social violence. Join the hosts Dr. Gail-Ann Guy and Dr. Michael O. Wright in their discussions of research, self-care, and trauma-informed recovery. Through these 3 segments, fostering resilience, promoting health, and facilitating healing, our aim is to provide survivors with a comprehensive and compassionate resource that offers hope, support, and guidance. We believe that with the right tools and understanding, survivors can share their stories, supercharge their recovery, and outline the impact of their healing journey.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Wow, look at that. Impressive. No, Michael, I know
That
you're
is
going to keep on doing these things, right? So I know this is right up your alley and you're enjoying this to the utmost. So go on, do your
right.
thing. Yeah. Okay, let's get into it. Talk to me.
That's the fun of it. So you heard what it is. It's all about the stories. It's all about the engagement. We want people to jump in, share. Not the we're well. Gail-Ann, Dr. Guy is a clinician. I'm a coach, but I'm a trained clinician. So I know that it's not about the gore of telling stories, but it really is about the opportunities for healing, the resilience that's expressed there. So that's where we want to center these conversations. So we will engage you in those conversations and support you into healthy conversations as opposed to what's called the trauma dump. We'll stop you from the trauma dump and really focus you on finding those threads of resilience. But I think, and this is where I want to start with our fostering resilience segment. I want to start us with this idea that discusses the beauty of telling the story. So even though we don't want trauma dumps, we don't want people to shy away from telling the story.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Guy, tell us why
Mm-hmm.
the stories need to be spoken.
I think it's important to have story, to tell story for storytelling, and not only for storytelling, but it's part of that healing. I think when people know, when people see a story or understand a story, see a face with the story, see someone who would have experienced it and then could be in a state of resilience, see and functioning right by the art of storytelling. It's important that we normalize conversations surrounding resilience and healing. It's important that we teach our young people, those that are coming up, what it is to be resilient, what it is, what does healing look like. Yeah, we in a trauma state, right? I think every family, every household have some sort of trauma from one issue to another, but it's important that we have conversation. And so, but even before I go any further, I just want to say thank you for jumping in and doing this thing with me, for being so brave. And I've always liked that about you, right? I like the fact that you could take something and run with it. And this here has been years in the making. I've had all sorts of things happening to the side. I've at least tried a couple of times, but I'm really glad that we're onto something tonight. So yeah, storytelling is important. It is important that we tell story so that people know, and also by telling, they can also relate.
Yeah, and we've talked a little bit about the you're welcome, by the way. But
Thank you.
we've talked a bit about the titling of this podcast and calling it "Cry Rape," and And
Right.
I like that it takes me aback. Like it is a little bit shocking to me.
Right.
And I think the difference is maybe a cultural difference slightly in terms of VI versus the United States, where people are a little more, bless your heart undertone. Let's not bring it up too much. But
Oh,
what the beauty of what I like is that if the situation is rape, we need to call it rape. We need to cry rape. I think it's important that we don't sugarcoat, minimize, and diminish people's stories
mm-hmm.
by trying
Being
to,
politically correct. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
to somehow
Mm-hmm.
make it palatable to who.
Mm-hmm.
All we do
Exactly.
is make the
Mm-hmm.
abuser feel more
Mm-hmm.
comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that should not be.
Right.
We really should empower the people
People. Mm-hmm.
to not have the people who are survivors
Mm-hmm.
to not feel shame about something that they could not control,
Mm-hmm.
something that was done to them that wasn't fair,
Yeah,
right,
right.
or appropriate.
Mm-hmm. I tell you what, this cry rape came about, Michael. In my research, I was researching gender-based violence in the Caribbean island, particularly in St. Vincent, and we will go into that another time. And so I was being invited places to share my research and to tell the stories of what I was learning. And I wanted an acronym. I wanted something that will hit and that people can remember, and and actually act on it. But listen, this is a true story. So I remembered in my research back in the creases of my mind. I remembered as a little girl that, and the book is based on that storyline as well. As a little girl, my mom, and oftentimes this happens, right? That people leave from one island, parents leave their children with grandparents, with other relatives, leaving from one island to another island and hoping that those relatives will take care of their children. And so my mom, in her wisdom at that time, I remember it as if it was yesterday. She said, Gail, listen, I'm leaving to go wherever, and I'm leaving you in the care of your grandmother and other relatives. But I want you to be aware of things. So if anyone were to ever come and to abuse you or to, hit you or whatever it is, I want you to cry rape. Bring attention to what was happening, right? And then I thought to myself, well, rape in a sense is a violation. It's molestation of someone forcing you into an act sexually that you don't want to be in. And so I wrestle with the acronym and how I could make sense of it. And for real, right? When we cry rape, when someone said rape, it's to really bring attention to what is happening to them, right? The injustice, the force, the violence through sex, right? What is happening to me? I want you to know that this is happening over here. And so I twist the words, the letters up a bit in my mind, and I thought, okay, wait, this could mean this could mean that, and so forth. And this is how I came about with cry rape. And all that means is make a loud noise in reporting, in advocating, in protecting, and in educating. And I couldn't see a more fitting acronym for really what I wanted to convey. And this is not just for the physical violence, right? It's also violence in different spaces, systematic violence, violence in institution, bullying. How do we talk to young people about reporting? How and what does reporting look like, right? We're not calling our neighbors and gossiping on the phone. Girl, you didn't hear. No, that's not the reporting. We are reporting to the right authorities. Children should be encouraged and educated as to finding someone safe, whether it's a principal, a school teacher, a counselor, someone at home that they trust. Because even in home, right, violence happen, rape happen, abuse happen, neglect happen. But finding someone, having conversation, candid conversation with our young people as to who does reporting look like, right? So to report properly to the proper authorities, we as adults living in the Caribbean islands, it's very close knit, and spaces are small, and people know people, right? And so Gossiping is a big thing. So you don't want to gossip as far as reporting. You want to tell the authorities, whether you're calling 911, you're calling CPS, you're calling what human services agency that are out there, the women's coalition, men's coalition, whoever, you're calling the right person as far as reporting. I see this happening, right? And you don't even have to worry about who is going to say you call, because you call it anonymously and leave the situation in the hands of those who were trained to investigate, right? So how do we report properly? What does proper reporting look like? Advocating is another word. And I'm harping on children because they need to know. They need to know the importance of standing up for their friends, right? Standing up for themselves even, right? Being that confident, and we have to instill that, right? So to report, to advocate. How do we protect those that have been victimized, right? And how do we continue with education so that folks could know, right? We know that report says that there are 1 in 4 women or 4 women in a room together, one of them would have been somehow sexual abuse, verbal abuse, whatever it is, right? But honestly, I remember being in a room one time and we had 6 women in the room, and I promise you, every last one of them were being violated or has been violated, right? And so we know we could say we have 1 in 4, and those are the numbers that we have. But there are many cases that are not reported, and folks just don't know how to appropriate themselves. We live in our life on automatic trauma response, right? So to report, to advocate, to protect, to educate is what we're going to be talking about, and as far as resilience as well, using those words to come back strong, to be resilient, right? To know that healing can come, that you can find the resources, and we're hoping to link people to resources. You can find a safe space to speak, right? Oftentimes, women, boys, girls, we don't often have that same space, that safe space. It's a taboo. Certain places don't want to talk about it. If you have conversation, it's like shh, shh, And I think it's about time we get over that and start what we're doing. We're not doing any good for those that are suffering. In fact, we are protecting the perpetrator, and we're exposing the victim to more ridicule, right? So they need to feel safe that they can have these conversations, and that communities, individuals, the social work practice on the micro, the macro, and the meso levels, right? All levels of social work involved in how we address these issues and promote healing.
Yeah, and let me ask you, when you think about that, and you're really working with clients, what's the message about the what it means, what to resilience and healing when you do report it and you report incidents promptly and accurately? How does that impact the healing and the resilience?
Right. So the healing and resilience has to be one that is holistic. Communities have to be involved in that healing process for clients and for those who would have been in those situations. So healing for me is the community being involved in advocating. Healing for me is support for the individual who would have gone through the trauma. Healing for me is that individual, when that individual opened his or her mouth to say that I have been abused, is believed, right? I am not judge and jury. I am not the authorities. If you tell me something is happening, I need to believe it and let the court decide whether or not this is true, right? And so oftentimes people being dumbed down or not believe, or oh, it didn't happen, because we want to protect a particular figure in society, whether they're in politics, whether they're in institutions, whether in churches, right? Whether they're in homes, pastors, wives, whomever. We want to more protect the person who are being the abuser than the person who's been victimized. And it's about time we get over that, right? It's about too much is happening. Too many people are suffering. Too many young people, right, are just upset. In the islands, we say vets. They're vets, right? That people are not believing them. They're vexed that they don't have the support. So healing and resilience, said to me, in my mind, it's a holistic approach to how we address these issues, right? Finding a safe space for those people to express, to tell the story, right? Whether we provide therapy, right, at their own pace. So it's not one that we force on someone, but they have to be in the space of readiness to do this. And what we do is support. We offer love. We offer all that we can to get them through this. But it's not just an individual thing, it's everybody's hands, all hands on deck.
And that's an important point. So this idea of reporting is really about reclaiming community,
Right,
creating the safe space in the community. And
right.
I can tell you from experience, I've listened to lots of stories about the abuse. And I mean, I've been a part of some stories that are abuse oriented, and there was always a character in there that was trying to save that relationship or save that person's face or
Right,
make they're okay. And
right.
that face they're talking about is always the abuser. And it's
Mhm.
no, this person is trash,
Right.
basically, if you understand what I'm saying.
I hear
Like,
you. Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
like this person is not for saving. And
Mm-hmm.
the worst type of situation, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if that was the population in your research, but it's the mother's boyfriend kind of
Mm-hmm.
situation,
Mm-hmm.
or somebody in the house, the mother's husband, you
Mm-hmm.
know, um,
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
the context of familial situations, or
Or
in
sometimes the women. Listen, women too are abusers.
that,
Or
yeah,
it's the 16-year-old with the 5-year-old little girl.
right,
And we're talking about sexual abuse, but there are other forms of abuse as well: physical,
exactly. And I
sexual, verbal. Mm-hmm.
and I think that's the challenge is when people feel like somehow you're upsetting the community. Like we're
Right.
calling it, no, we need healthy communities, but they're
Mm-hmm.
saying, no, you're messing up my community
Mm-hmm.
in this family, or
Mm-hmm.
you're
Mm-hmm.
making us uncomfortable.
Right.
And no, I'm not making you uncomfortable. This
Mm-hmm.
person is trash.
Mm-hmm.
They acted like trash.
Right.
That's who needs to be having the problem,
Mm-hmm.
not me
Right.
bringing
Mm-hmm.
your attention to it.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I'm cutting you. There's so much going on in my head, right? So much ideas.
No,
And so that narrative really truly do need to change, right? And you're right. In the research that I was doing, a lot of it was parents would find me as if I was the voice. Like, thank you, God. Thank you that you're doing this, because I don't know that I could speak about it, or that someone is listening to me, right? And so the that word protect, right? And here is what I found is that people will rather take the individuals, right, up and down the way. The one who has been victimized have to leave home. The one who has been battered have to leave home. Further re-traumatizing. As far as protecting, here's a concept. How about removing the perpetrator, right? Why do we have perpetrators in spaces and places, right? Why do we have perpetrators in institution? Why do we have stepfathers and fathers and mothers and brothers in spaces, right, that continue abuse? Why don't we move them? Let them go through and try to find a new way, find a new life, find a new space, and leave individuals in spaces where they're going to be nurtured and supported by individuals, right? So it's just we just need to start changing narrative, and through conversation like this, Michael, we can have open conversation, be brave about it, because we are so afraid. We're afraid to talk about it. We're afraid we're gonna offend somebody. We're afraid that somebody ain't gonna want to like me anymore. Hear the island accent coming out. I'm sorry, because I'm truly from the islands, right? We're afraid that that whatever it is, and then we forget the poor child, we forget the woman, we forget the man, we forget the boy who has gone through this trauma and will continue to repeat this trauma because that person have not have help, right? They have not had the therapy, they have had not the support or the services to get them through. And what we do, we continuously perpetuate a system of brokenness and of traumatization. I know you keep going in and out, so I'm just going to continue talking, my dear. Okay, I see you coming back. Can you hear me?
I definitely can. No, it's just camera work.
Yeah. But this is so much fun. I am really liking this. I like the fact that it's a touch and go, but it'll come together. I'm sure it'll come together.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, this is for the edit. So like
Okay.
when we do edits and we post to other social media,
Okay.
you being on the screen doing your spiel, it's nicer, right? So I don't have to cut it.
Are we live anywhere? Are we live on Facebook or anywhere else?
Yeah, it's on Facebook, 3 pages on Facebook, my Instagram, and my LinkedIn, and my Twitter and YouTube.
You are kidding. No,
Yep.
I'm more nervous. Oh God.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay,
So,
no, let's get on with it.
And then you can add it to your platforms too.
Absolutely.
You got those the instructions on how to do that.
Yeah.
So let's take a 30-minute break, 30-second break, and we'll be back and we'll get into our second segment.
And we're back.
Yeah, I can see you dancing, so that's cool.
That was good music. It was good gyration. I liked it. Yeah.
So in our second segment, we are really looking at talking more about the professional help that's available and how these processes work, really in the context of assisting people in their healing journey. So I'm posting up a graphic. Because graphics are how we do this.
Let me see.
The big thing for me in what you've talked about, and you've mentioned this in the first segment, is talking about the professionals and handing it over to the professionals. The big message is that healing can happen.
Absolutely.
That people actually have skills to help you work through this. I mentioned I talk a lot about my best friend because it's my best friend. I mean,
hey,
right?
I mean, best friend. Handle your business.
And what happens is, she's from a traditional Black family, and we don't share our problems with people and stay out of my business and all this different stuff. And the big factor I think for a lot of people is I'm older now. What I don't need that. I've gotten over it. I'm okay.
But are we ever okay?
That's the question. That's the biggest question. It's okay not to be okay. And it's also important to go into a therapeutic situation or a coaching situation, even a medical situation, with the feeling that you can be vulnerable, you can be open and honest, and that person has tools to work with you and to get you from where you are to where you want to be. And that's what I want to get your feedback on.
So
I think the challenge for people is defining who they are and where they want to be. I think that is what was damaged in the transition. They they don't really have a good sense of themselves, and where they want to be. They self-limit.
And so
how is the professional going to help you with that?
Right. So changes really come, right, Michael, when you are ready for it. When I know for sure this has happened, I own it, and I need help. Even the perpetrators, right? And so it's professionals such as therapists and counselors, social workers, healthcare providers, and the whole list goes on. But here are two things that are in my mind: how healing is important and can definitely happen. So we know that research would say a child I teach a trauma-informed class, and it's Dr. Bruce somebody. Please forgive me, I can't remember my name, but we will get his name correct and put it in the space. But a child in the first, I believe, the first 2 months. And it can be bad or good. So a child in the first 2 months who have been touched properly and nurtured and helped and held, right? Packed and rubbed and soothed and being fed and diaper being changed on time and so forth and so on. That child, in the eyes of adversities, as he or she grows and things happen, they can properly bounce back, right? Because of that first initial care. And in the same way, that same child who would have been abused, yelled at, left for cry, leave in dirty diapers, not being fed on time, that same child will grow up and find themselves in ways that are very detrimental. It's difficult for them to get through certain issues, right? So even with the professional help, I want to talk to parents who are now having babies or having young children. Right? We're talking about healing or health, the health of someone becoming a healed individual and how they get there. It begins with parents who having these young children, these babies, nurturing your child. I believe in my mind that a child should be spoiled up until they're about 5 years old. And then, yeah, but that's a whole nother story. But to nurture your child, to touch your child positively, to reaffirm your child, the good of your child, right? So that when they reach the stage of whatever it is, because truly, right, life happens. Life happens to all of us. I don't know a family or a person who have a perfect life other than Jesus Christ. And not even Jesus Christ had a perfect life. Jesus had his Christ had issues, right? He had issues with his mother because he was very mouthy. That's a whole nother story, right? And he tells people about themselves. That's also another story. But what I'm saying is that we as a nation, we as human beings are going to go through things, right? It is inevitable. How we show up is what makes the difference, right? And if we don't know, if we refuse to know, if we refuse to educate ourselves, if we refuse to learn, to seek the help. Listen, if someone is saying to you, listen, what you're saying to me is hurtful. I don't like it. It behooves you to change. You have to be in spaces. You have to be ready, right? You have to be willing to let go of what it is that you think you know, right? And be in position to help that person. In helping that person, you're also helping yourself, right? There was a thought in my mind that I was going to say something, and it just missed me, but it'll come back, right? So yeah, so we have to be able to be ready to own what it is that we're feeling. Again, Michael, that is because we don't have healthy conversations. Our communities are not healthy. Our homes are not healthy. In fact, parents don't even know, right? We live in a male patriarchal society, especially here in the Caribbean. In America, on the mainland, some of the rights you have that are there does not transpire the same way in these islands, right? No, we have made great strides, absolutely, and we have come a very long way, but there's still a lot of taboo issues. There's a lot of hush hush conversation. There's a lot of, oh, I can't talk about that. But listen, guys, I'm saying to you, in order for you to get to where you need to go, you first have to first acknowledge that something is wrong with me. I'm broken. You have husband in relationship. Who believes that they can do certain things, they can say certain things, behave in certain ways, and you have broken women, right? You have women in relationship who believe they can say this and say that, and you have broken men who would quickly pick them up in their brokenness, right? Because it's a constant traumatic society. People refuse to get their healing. People refuse to be healed. So yes, when we start the healing, we must be educated first individually on the micro level, right? Then we must strive to educate our communities, our small groups, right? Telling them about professionals, telling them about it's okay to want to have therapy. It's okay to say I'm not okay and I need help. It is okay, right? What's not okay is that knowing that you're not okay, right? And refuse to seek the help that you need. You understand? So it's okay to say I need the help and get the help you need. And community, our society need to be able to foster in support, offering resources, right? Whether it's therapy, whether human services could link you to some agency where you can get the help. There are a number of agencies here in the Virgin Islands, and I know that there are also a number of agencies in the United States where people can get the help, right? So you need to start finding and seeking out those workers. Social workers are good therapists. We are not just case managers or take children out of the home of individuals. We actually are trained. We have such a thing as a clinical social worker who are trained to offer therapy and those services. You have healthcare providers, doctors, nurses, everyone I feel who is in the helping profession needs to be on the same page. They need to have information as to how we address certain issues. Teachers who are in school, right? Teaching these children need to be hyper vigilant, need to have an extra eye to see what it is that is going on with these children or young people so that they can start fostering a healthy relationship and move them forward to the resources that is going to help them. We live in trauma, constant trauma, right? And we respond because we're so hyper vigilant in responding, in defending. Oh, listen, yeah, I got, but we got to be able to say, listen, I'm not okay. I need the help. Start having those conversations. Have them with yourselves, right? Because it begins before you could act on something. It must begins in your mind. It begins here first, right? And then it transpire into action. So have conversation with yourself. Talk yourself through it and get the help you need.
Mm, mm. Perfect. I think it's really critical. I know that people have their reasons for not doing it, and like I always say, it's better that you don't do it. You don't submit to it if you're not ready. But
Mm-hmm.
if you should walk around, wake up, trip up one day
Mm-hmm.
and get ready,
Mm-hmm.
get it.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, it's a funny process. You people think like if I go and I don't like the person, then therapy is terrible. No,
Right,
you get to decide who you can work with. And
right.
that's why it's important to, like,
Mm-hmm.
Psychology Today has their database of people, their
Mm-hmm.
different websites, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
Noomi, Noomii, to
Mm-hmm.
get.com, to get people who are coaches.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking for fit. You can look at the profile, see what they look like in their pictures, see what
Mm-hmm.
they say they're going to do and how they do it, what their expertise is, and get
Mm-hmm.
the help you need specifically from someone who
Mm-hmm.
looks to be comfortable. But you can also interview with them and decide you don't fit with them, and that's appropriate too. So, as you said, get the help you need and know that it really is on your terms. Now,
Right.
how you approach that intervention
Mm-hmm.
and the expertise they have, they're going to give you that, and it may not
Mm-hmm.
always be comfortable. But in
Mm-hmm.
terms of your comfort with the person and your ability to sit down with them and converse with them, you can definitely get that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think more than comfortable. You just have to be sick and tired of you being sick and tired, and that gets you in a position where now, and I think that's truly where that uh, healing begins. Is that you're really at a place of I need help. Can you help me? Right? And you're right. There are specialists who are trained in trauma informed care. There are people who in our schools we're supposed to have counselors, and sometimes most of our students don't know that they can go to their school counselors to get the help they need.
For
Parents
free.
can,
Yeah.
for free, absolutely. Parents can go to human services. Human services can refer them to because they have a list, they have a database of people who are in the community that can help them. We have several, such as I'm not really promoting anyone per se, but we in St. Croix we have island therapy on both St. Thomas and St. Croix. These are agency who truly help. There is Beautiful Dreamers, I think, and others that I can't remember right now, right? But you want to, and if you're in the island, your Gender Affairs Division or Health Division, Ministry of Health should have nurses, social workers, and that's another thing too. I need to also address this. So again, the resources are not equal. across the spectrum. Some islands or some countries are third world countries, and they truly don't have the resources as other places may have, right? But agencies and ministries can start training. Spend your money on training individuals, right? How to address, how to assess. What does an assessment look like? First thing, right? Um, how do we know that this person need the help they need? But your workers also have to be trained. Many a times, I remember even being in St. Vincent this one time when I was doing the research, a particular incident happened, and a man and a woman was in the street, and the man was battering the woman, and the social worker, quote unquote social worker at the time, she defended the guy. She said, "Oh no, this ain't nothing. This happened all the time. I know him, right?" But yet and still, this woman was walking around with bruises and battered. She was not trained properly how to address. So spend your money on training your mental health workers. And mental health, again, Michael, is another thing that we don't want to talk about in these parts, right? As if mental health is not like you go into the doctor, you get a cut, it's the same thing. You should think about it the same way, right? If you're not functioning mentally in a way, in a capacity where it seems that you're doing what you know to do at an equilibrium or a balance. We remember we used to have in the old DSM-4 the GAF, right? The global assessment of functioning. If you're not functioning in a way that you need to function, then you need to seek the help you need. But again, one of the major issues here in these parts and other islands, we don't have trained professionals who know how to properly assess and offer an intervention. When they see a crisis, they don't know that crisis is really truly happening, right? They either brush it under the rug, or it's not serious until somebody ends up dead, or a child end up under some truck, or whatever it is. But we gotta be serious if we're going to talk about healing again. It is not just the individual who's seeking the help, but it's those services and agencies that are within our community who should take it upon themselves, right, to train individuals, be in the know what are the trends. Part of being resilient and crying rape is that education piece, right? Be in the know the trends, know what is happening, so you can start that healing process for individuals who have been traumatized and need help to be back in mental wellness and physical wellness.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting kind of take on what we might get into. I think that's something that we might take as a platform note for what we're doing here.
Mental health, mental wellness,
education piece, the policy practice, the community engagement, the organizing. That's a real need. And speaking to that is a really important opportunity. So interesting. So you listed a bunch of resources. I like to remind people that they're free services. Mental health services are supported by your employer as well. So, the R.A.P.E or whatever brand of human resources interventions you have, often you can take time to address your mental health in those environments as well. All right, so let's move into our third segment. Before we do, we're going to take a 30-second pause.
Okay. I'm getting ready to do my dancing. Ready?
Okay.
You have the music? Okay. So listen, I'm glad that we wasn't on and no one saw me dancing, especially my children, because they'd be dying. They'd, you know you can't be dancing, mommy. You be trying to be dancing. Don't be doing that. You're embarrassing people. But yeah, that was fun.
You need to have the dance break on. Yeah, that was
There's just one particular dance I do all the time. That's not it. No, this like we've moved past that years ago.
So what it is you actually can dance, but it's only one dance.
I cannot dance. No. But wait, let me fix that. In my mind, I can. Okay,
You're
because
just,
dancing is just moving your body in the right way with the rhythm. But they don't think that I can.
look,
It's too bad for them. I know I can.
don't even limit yourself, because I see people on the computer and on television dancing, and I'm saying, why were my kids laughing at me? Uh, I'm
You
doing what
so
they're
much
doing.
better. Absolutely. Yeah.
I was like, anyway. We'll
And
talk about
listen, and dancing, Michael, going into our third segment right there, dancing is healing.
that.
Dancing
Exact
is
right.
dancing is healing.
It's definitely healing. Let's
Mm-hmm.
get into it. Our
Mm-hmm.
third segment.
Yeah.
Let's
How do we get to the healing part, right? So
That's the big question. That's the big question.
one of the things I'm thinking about, Michael, is that um, setting boundaries is going to be a big, 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 big part of this healing process. And what I mean by that is that, right? Um, we find ourselves in spaces continuously. We know that something is bad for us. We know that this person or this group or this space is not one that is conducive to my growth, my health, my healing and development. And a lot of it, Michael, is those cultural norms. Parents feel that they should be able to talk to their children however, whenever they want, and that because you're my child, you should come right back as if I don't have feelings, or that I don't feel. And so, parents, from a cultural perspective, and I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but it's okay, lack the emotional intelligence, right? And also, a lot of that has to do with how we were not raised, but what we were exposed to. I'm not going to go into the slavery binge because it is really what it is, right?
Yeah.
And I know we always want to be politically correct, but it's just what it is. And so parents cannot give, or folks cannot give what they don't have, right? And so if you find yourself in a space where you tell yourself, I want to heal and I've had enough of it, you're gonna have to be able to set hard boundaries for yourself in respecting, yes, but respecting and loving yourself more, right? So how do you set boundaries? Well, if I'm in that particular space and this person is speaking to me like they're out of their minds, repeat words. Please do not talk to me like that. And if you continue talking to me like that, I would not find myself in spaces that you're in, right? You have the right to do that. You have to protect you first. Parents should not allow their children to be abused by grandparents, auntie and uncles, just because it's a cultural norm, or that I need to respect my elders. No, how about respecting me first? Because I'm a child does not mean you don't respect me, right? Or that you can talk to me however you want. And we have parents who do this religiously. So setting boundaries, not just parents and children, but with spouses and relationship. We have young people in relationship, women in relationship where men are very abusive verbally and physically, right? Or that socioeconomic statuses keep one person bound to situations. And because they don't feel like they have the means, right, to help themselves or support themselves, they find themselves in abusive situations, right? And so that sometimes bung them even more. In my research, a lot of that was happening. Parents and mothers were saying, well, I can't really leave. Who's gonna take care of me and the rest of the children? That was one child, right? But I have four other children. Who's gonna take care of me and the four other children? So they find themselves debilitating to situations, right? And they don't seems or not know that they have the resources they can do that. And this is why we need to be really truly more supportive, right? So setting boundaries, learning how to remove yourself from situation without any apologies for people. If it's going to be detrimental to you, if you're not growing from a situation, money, a cell phone, because these are the things that these young people is all about. The lack of hair, or the pack of weave, that should not be what keeps you in a relationship of abuse, because what's going to happen? You're going to go and become an abuser, abuse whomever, because you're going to perpetuate the same system, right? So set boundaries, folks, please. Learn how to de-escalate situations, walking away from situation, keeping your mouth shut. Silence, I recently learned this. Silence is golden. When people lie, when people say, when people do, and you initially in your gut, you want to stand up and defend self. No, walk away with your dignity. Leave people to be themselves. That's part of setting boundaries. Because when you give in to that, right, you become what they think you should be or what you should not. So walk away. Keep, when I say keep silence, really, not silence about what abuse is, not silence about somebody taking advantage of you, not silence about somebody physically, verbally abusing you. No,
Right.
silence in the sense that when you could retaliate, instead of using your power to make that, your retaliation should be how I protect myself and find myself in safe spaces. I hope you understand what I'm saying, right?
I
Find yourself
totally
in safe spaces, find yourself where you can heal through the hardship with people who support you, who love you, right? Cultivate an awareness of your surroundings, right? Is this working for me, right? The people in this home, right? The people at this job. Sometimes we find ourselves, and I could understand it because I understand economic hardship. People find themselves in jobs and position where employers, bosses are abusive verbally. They're being bullied, right? And talked down to and beaten down, and sometimes they don't feel like they have the voice because our system is so broken that those who are in authority, who should help, right, perpetuate and even add it to the trauma, right? But employers, again, is the training. You gotta train. You gotta know. You must know. And if your employers are saying things are not happening the way it behooves you to take a stand. It behooves you to make the changes and stop, because sometimes in these parts of the world, it's nepotism. It's who I know or it's who know me, right? And that is more or most important than the person who's been victimized. We got to now listen, that narratives have to change. I'm sorry. And again, my biggest fault is I don't know how to be politically correct. So I apologize now, right? The narrative has to change. We must now own what it is that we need to own, make the changes that we need to make, and do right by people, right? It is enough already. We have enough people suffering, right? All because you want keep your mouth shut to protect the person who's doing whatever, right? So young people, mothers, husbands, find yourself in spaces that are going to be conducive to your healing and to your mental wellness, right? Do not subject yourself to abuse because you're afraid of certain cultural norms or because you're afraid of who's going to say what. When you're dead and gone, God forbid, they're going to still say what, right? So if you have to save yourself, you have to debate in saving yourself or saving your little one, save your little one and save yourself. Get out of it. And I know as a social worker, that is easier said than done. Listen, a person who is in an abusive situation has to take two or three or four, five different attempts, right, to make sure this is happening. This is why we need supportive communities who can support individuals when they decide to make those changes, right? So setting boundaries is one, right? Having a safety plan, Michael, is another one, right? I remember having a conversation with my daughter, and she's dying now. She's calling up my name, is what she's saying. I had a conversation with my daughter. We were talking about safety, and she wanted to give me a reference. So she talked about how this little girl, whether she read it somewhere or it was on the news, I don't remember, but it was a good example. This little girl was coming from school, and this gentleman who she knew very well, right? It was a personal and close family friend, and she knew this guy very well. And the guy came to her while she was walking from school or while she was waiting for her parents to pick her up. And he said to her, come in the car with me. Your parents sent me to pick you up. And then she asked him, so what is the code? Her parents had devised a safety plan with her prior, right? And that was just so beautiful. So she asked him for the code, and as close as he was to the family, as much as she could have or should have trusted him, he did not know the code, and therefore that in itself saved that little girl. Parents, devise safety plan with your children. Women who are in abusive relationship, devise a safety plan as to how you're going to get out of that relationship. Men do the same, and a safety plan should involve the police, the authorities. A safety plan should involve church leaders who are very supportive of the move. Church plans should involve places where you can get resources, food, shelter, clothes, money, all of that. Your safety plan should be one that when you execute it, you don't ever have to go back. If you have young children, devise a safety plan as to when I move to this place, that my child is going to be provided for, my child is going to be protected, and I don't have to worry about whatever, right? So the law needs to be involved in a safety plan where violence is involved, um, uh, police, the proper, and again, that is another situation, Michael. In the islands, it's not so easy, right, for people, and this is why people remain in abusive relationship and sometimes end up losing their lives. This is a gruesome story, but I remember this to be true. I was in St. Vincent a few years back, and we had just moved there to do whatever, and the story was told about this one nurse who was complaining, right? Complaining to authorities, and authorities refused to listen to her, refused to take the necessary measures, right? Because they knew the guy, and I guess, oh, go home and make peace with your husband, right? That lady ended up being dead. The husband shoot the mother in front of her two children while they witnessed that. Now, you tell me how that is a better situation than you really taking up the mantle and doing what you must do, right, to protect individuals. Again, Michael, I'm sorry, it is not as free, and the resources are not there, and people are not as serious as the states that they are in these islands and some places in the world. Women have to contend with societal misconduct and maladaptive behavior that does not support them, right? And they find themselves in situations. So I'm talking, but yet I have to be empathetic because I know it is not as easy, right? And this is why it has to be holistic. It has to be individual effort, meeting community effort, meeting the macro effort. Whether it's the policy that we're writing, maybe there needs to be new documentations or new policies enacted that really protect individuals who are going through these issues, and then protect or convict and put those officers, right, those judges, those lawyers, whomever who refuse to do what they need to do for these individuals, they should be the one being prosecuted, right, for allowing things to happen. But we have systems that are broken, Michael. So even when we want to heal, even when we want to take measures in some places of the world, and I have to be true to that because that is some of our realities, right? It is not as easy to walk away. Again, in as much as it's difficult, people create spaces. If you're hearing my voice and I'm pleading with you, if you're a pastor, if you're a woman leader, if you're the neighbor next door, if you are a teacher, a nurse, a social worker, whomever you are, please be not just hyper vigilant, but be in position to want to help, right? We can't worry about who we protecting in politics. We can't worry about who we're protecting in church, right? Worry about the individuals who are suffering, right? And not just for today because it's very expensive, right? No, it's that child who's growing up in that home who's gonna become an abusive person because of what they see. They mirror what they see, right? Worry about the ripple effect that it takes, that happens when we don't address issues and we don't do what we must do to save individuals from abuse. And it's so fitting, Michael. We forget to give honor to March as Women History Month, right? As women, we have made great strides. The feminist movement have been one of us as far as history in defending, in protecting, in providing for equal rights, right, and justice for all, right. And you don't have to be a woman to be a feminist. You can be male as well, right. So yeah, I'm done rambling. That's my spiel.
That is a wrap on the first episode.
Wow.
I think there's some really great tips there to end with in the context of healing. I think the setting boundaries is critical. the safety plan. I really like this idea of the safe space, and you never have to apologize to me about being politically incorrect. I say keep going and just thank me for understanding.
Thank
Thank
you.
Dr. Guy for understanding that you can be that person and speak
Yeah.
the truth.
Speak the truth and set somebody free. And that's
That's
the one thing, right? Yeah.
and then that
Mhm.
last point of revealing the abuser is how you protect the survivor. So calling people out, we do way too much of protecting the
Right.
people who are doing the wrong here,
Right.
and not protecting the survivor. So let's do more of that. I appreciate you. We will continue to work with this time. If this time continues to work, this is where we'll show up
Yeah.
and be our best in this space.
Yeah.
Have a
So
good night.
no, wait. So this was great. And if my listeners are there, I thank you for coming, for supporting. Thank you, Dr. Wright, for initiating and go, yes, we can do this. Well, I don't know who initiated, but listen, you were ready to go. So I'm like, praise God, right? And so, so for those who are listening, right, again, I'm just going to reiterate that CRY-RAPE acronym, it says to report, to advocate, to protect, and to educate. Do not be afraid to be an advocate for yourself, right? If you don't be one for you, someone else wouldn't be for you, right? So you have to start with yourself, right? And come back again. We're going to be here every Wednesday night, Michael. We hope this is going to work, at least for the end of this season, and then we'll see how things go. So thank you for joining. Did you just cut me off?
Yep. I thought the audio was gonna stay. I was gonna show the acronym. But
Show the acronym. I see CRY-RAPE right above my head. CRY-RAPE. All right. But I'm done. So thank you guys for coming, for joining us in this conversation, right? Hit me up on my Facebook page if you have questions. If you want us to continue having conversation in your small groups, I am willing and able to do so. Let me know. And it's a wrap. I'm done.
and just a note, they can get into the comment as well during the show and be featured in the comments as well. So
Listen, so are you gonna edit this, or I can go on my Facebook page and this is there?
it's there already. Well, did you post it on there?
I think I did. What did I know?
If you added it, then it should be recorded. But it'll be recorded on the Facebook event. Well, you want a copy of it? If not,
oh, that is so sad.
I'll send you a copy.
Okay, all right. Please, because I need it to be on my Facebook if I can. But it's what I was struggling with. You know, when I came on first, I got kicked out because I was trying